Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are thoroughly excited for this delicious topic that we are going to be exploring today of self-identity and self-perception.
You went on full sex on the phone voice, did I?
No, this was my soothing. This is your meditation. Welcome.
Like with anything in life, there is an infinite number of things that are healing to us. 111 Ways to Heal podcast is about that. Enjoy.
So such a big topic, and I feel like we can go in so many different directions. So I'm excited to see where this goes and to hear about your experiences with this. So let's just start really broad. And when you think of this concept of identity and self-perception, what is it that comes up for you? And I always wonder as well, it's maybe you can visualize yourself looking at yourself in the mirror, and what is it that you see when you do that? What comes up?
Thank you, Tash. Very interesting question to ponder on. I think it's still an ongoing process for me. So just working from that visualization of me looking into the mirror and what do I see? It's funny because one of the things that come to my head is not putting myself in a box of race or gender, because that's a very easy thing to put yourself into as part of your identity. But recently I've also been exploring a lot of who I am in my core without kind of automatically putting myself into those things. So a lot of the identity stuff that I'm working currently with myself is a lot of unlearning, because I realized that a lot of our identity initially is formed with the environment that we grew up in and just the cultural environment as well that we've grown up in. There's been a lot of identity reformation for me, especially with moving out and living by myself and kind of removing myself from those environments that I've been influenced by or that I grew up in. I realized those things that I wanted to continue as part of who I am, and those things that I wanted to shed or unlearn. So I guess that's one of those things that has popped up for me. And that's still currently something that I'm trying to work on, and it's a current journey that I'm on.
Yeah, I think I'll add on to it as well. It's definitely something I've, like Tash said, all my life kind of been reflecting on and thinking about, and trying to differentiate where is this coming from? Is it me, or is it society? Is it my mom telling me that I'm pretty or smart, or is it just me learning that about myself, or society again, or my culture? I feel in my culture in Ukraine, pretty is one of the first things women think about. Such gorgeous and beautiful women in Ukraine, and it's embedded in our culture. And I've for a while had a lot of resistance to it, and I really, no shade towards Australians, but I feel in terms of self-care, Australia is not as far advanced as Ukraine. And I really, really, really liked it because I didn't have to do any of the Ukrainian lashes, brows, nails every week. And obviously not everyone does it even in Ukraine, but I feel culturally it's there embedded, and emphasis on beauty is a big asset. And I have been reflecting on where is it coming culturally, and what does it look like within me and myself. And recently I realized, and my friend pointed out to me as well, that some of my thinking is actually around rejecting myself, or who I am in terms of looks. And that's something I can't say again. I've worked as well through it, and it is an interesting topic to keep coming back to, because for me, and every time I see videos like this, it's pretty privileged. People talk about it, and I have experienced it myself. I can't deny that I have thick eyebrows and lashes. For example, for a girl, it's also an asset, right? Already. And or
Can't help Beautiful.
I can't help being beautiful, guys. No, but it's like something I've experienced before, and I'm sure a lot of ladies have experienced it before, and I have been also reflecting on how it feels to be perceived as just an object, because for women, I feel like also a lot of women might have experienced being looked at as just a pretty thing. And I remember talking to my friend about it and like saying that I get instant ick if I can see that someone is attracted to me just purely based on looks. And then my friend pointed out to me that, well, you will be attracted to someone based on their look. Like, yes, maybe you will be then like more and more into it, but like, why wouldn't you give a chance to someone who's just genuinely just interested in you in the first place, because they can see you, probably because they haven't had a chance to talk to you. But I can't get it out of my head that it's like such a like not me thing, because I don't identify as like my looks at all. And that's what kind of made me really reflect on self-perception, because I realized I was really disconnected from it, and really would love to unpack it a bit more, and maybe together we can get to the bottom of that today or someday.
Thank you. Yeah, fascinating. I'm so curious about the different parts around that for you, which I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about. But yeah, this dance between identity and self-perception and what influences that is so fascinating. And the way I view like my identity, or the way it's evolved and changed for me, is that there are, like, I do parts work therapy, so there are these different parts of me, but there are also these different layers. And like when I look in the mirror, it's like, where is it that I am looking? Initially, am I looking at the physical? Am I looking at the form? And there are so many layers to that as well, in terms of like, you know, physically, what is my appearance? What can I notice through looking at my physical body and my physical identity? And what is my health like? What is my vitality like? And so often the things that we focus on are like things that society deems as beautiful, right? You know, do I have long eyelashes? Do I have clear skin? Do I have, you know, perfect hair that's not frizzy? Or, you know, do I have now big lips? Do I have a big booty? Do I have big titties? Like, what is it that everyone, you know, is deeming as attractive? And then the self-perception is, well, what is it that I perceive having those looks is going to get me? And oftentimes it comes down to that core need of connection and, you know, love and belonging and survival, really, because that's what we need to survive. And so when I look truly deeper, when I look into my eyes, and I wonder like how often you guys eye gaze with yourself in the mirror, but it can be a really vulnerable thing. Like oftentimes when we look in the mirror, we just like dart around at our face or our bodies or fixate on a certain area. But you know, what happens when we truly look beyond the surface and we look deeper? What is it that we perceive there? And so below that physical layer of identity, when we go a little bit deeper, then we have this, you know, emotional identity that we might hold. And then, you know, we might even have that spiritual identity as well.
I wanted to add on to that physical, what society deems as attractive, because I guess growing up in the Philippines, like the color of our skin was something that was like, we always deemed having lighter skin as more beautiful over darker skin. Whereas in Western culture, people tan and people like, you know, prefer the dark skin, like they see that as the beautiful one. So it's funny because when I tell people like, oh, in the Philippines, like people actually whiten their skin to like, or like put like whitening powder to like make their faces bright. Yeah, so it's like people usually desire what they don't have. And it's, you know, sometimes they forget that what they already have is already beautiful, and, you know, and everyone's different and everyone's beautiful in their own way. And I feel like in a way moving away again from like the environment that I grew up in, so like moving to Australia has helped me realize and appreciate me, like, you know, who I am, and like my skin and where I came from. I mean, there's like two different, there's things that I also realized that I didn't want to identify as anymore, but it also has reinforced those things that I really, I guess, didn't really appreciate about myself and where I came from. So I think it highlighted those things for me, the things that I'm really grateful for, but also made me notice the ones that I needed to shed. So that also kind of helped me start my journey on like, okay, who do I really want to be? Because I don't fully identify myself. I mean, it's strange, like moving myself into a different country and then now calling this as my home. I don't fully identify myself as Filipino, but I also don't fully identify myself as Australian. I'm kind of in this like limbo. It's like my own little identity box. And I kind of learned how to be okay with not belonging into a particular, just being my own box, not belonging to a particular, what do you call it? Yeah, box. I was just mindful. I was saying box a lot. So I've just been, learning to be okay to pave my own path of identity, basically, and not forcing myself to fit into an existing identity mold. Yeah, exactly.
I love how like all of these different life experiences allows us to really kind of like take and mold the kind of lessons and the challenges and the beauty and to kind of create our own box. But to create our own mold and to create our own kind of sculpture. And that's not to say that like once it's made or created, it is what it is. It's just like this constant evolution. And there was something that you touched on, which I just wanted to add, which was when you mentioned that wanting what it is that we don't have. And it's like to kind of peel that back and go, what is the meaning that we put on that? Like, I'm so curious what is the meaning of white skin? Because I'm sure there'd be so many more like deeply embedded beliefs around that. And like, what is it that I can attain through this? What is it that it will mean about me? What will I receive or like, avoid if we're avoiding punishment or something? Like, what is it that this means about that? And I think when we look at all of these things, or like, of these self-perceptions and these meanings that we create around something, like, what is it going to mean if I have, and like in this culture, it's like, tan skin. What is it going to mean if I have tan skin and I'm going to look a certain way? Or what does it mean if I wear, this type of clothing? And they can be, and it's not to say that there isn't a way to do it where you feel like empowered and embodied and sexy, but is it coming from a deep burden and pain to receive or avoid something, like that fear of abandonment and rejection? Or is it coming from a place of authenticity and love and expansion? Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, even building up on this, what comes up for me reflecting on all of this is I feel like when we are on the path of self-love and self-acceptance, that's also when we start looking at the things that we deem as like, when I reach this certain size in clothes, that's when I love myself, or like that's the weight that when I will love myself fully. And then when you start the path of self-love and self-acceptance, you realize that this right in this moment right now is when I need to be loving myself the most. Still like strive for like, goals and body goals and everything, but start with accepting where you're at and being comfortable with everything you have now and you don't have.
A lot of fitness trainers, like recently I've seen some people posting and talking about like, do I exercise because I hate my body or do I exercise because I love my body? And like, what's the intention behind that? Because like, there like, we want to be healthy, right? There are certain things that we want to be doing for our body because we love it and we nurture it and we care for it. And I'm like, there's also, layers of conditioning with that too as to why we might,
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you come from a place of love for yourself, it gives you gain so much more insight about yourself and your patterns of thinking about like your body, your like appearance, or everything else you do, or everything else in your life overall. So it is a great place to start whichever project is that self-love and self-acceptance, which is now that we're talking about it and reflecting on it, I remembered that when my friend from Ukraine came and visited me 2 years ago, and on the last day, last couple of days, we were driving. I was driving somewhere, and with her, and I was like, "Hey, like no frills, like no nothing. Like please just tell me like whatever you're noticing about me, because she hasn't been with me like for 10 years." In person, like whatever you're noticing about me, and you're like, I don't think it's Anna, like, but you are not being yourself, like tell me, because I've been noticing that about her, and I wanted to kind of do that for her, just part on really good friend advice and openness. And she told me like, hey girl, you let yourself go, like why aren't you brushing your hair in the morning? And like stuff like that. And I was like, damn, it is true. I keep preaching about self-love, but actually have no respect for my look or like my body in terms of appearance.
Can I ask, is there a part of you that was like, I'm gonna now protest this and like go the complete opposite direction and like show how much I love myself through like not brushing my hair? Or like, I'm just so curious, like the part that didn't want to brush your hair or tend to your appearance, like what was that in service to?
Yeah, I wonder, because that's when I moved to Sunshine Coast and became a hippie living in the forest and like growing vegetables. So probably was from a sense of natural everything. Yeah. I stopped painting my nail. Like I used to wear like eyeshadow, like nails done every week. I would do that. Can you believe? It was crazy. And that was a way of me escaping reality, because I was really unhappy at my job, but also just something to be happy about. And I was really happy with my like eyeshadows and everything. And
so imagine like you're so creative. I wonder if like that was a creative outlet for you as well, like the makeup and the shadow and the
It totally was, and it was a way to connect with myself for sure. And when I was became complete opposite, let myself go very much, very obviously, happy to be wearing whatever as long as it's like practical. And my friend really pointed out to me, and it's funny because after she did and I thought about it, I started doing like minimal little like lipstick, or do a cute little dress for my work. And I like slowly started doing that. And as soon as I started almost being myself more, just showing up and appreciating everything around me, including myself and my body, I started noticing a lot more shifts in my life. That's, a lot of changes in my life started happening again. And I feel like that's almost like the love for myself and what I was kind of showing externally, about showing that I do love myself, appreciate like past like pieces of my body, like my hair and everything. Things started shifting as a result of it. I don't know, like now reflecting on that, I'm noticing this. Never thought about it before.
What meaning did that part of you, the hippie part, attribute to makeup and nails and things? Like what meaning did you have about that as like an identity?
I don't know, maybe it felt more fake, like all like protective layers of myself and putting up like different fronts. But I do love no makeup sort of lifestyle. I don't put on makeup at the moment as well. I still love it and appreciate it, and I used to watch so many tutorials just for like soothing soul. But I now even realize that I'm kind of in the same cycle. Like I'm not putting on makeup. I've been dressing up cute, but thank you. Like it's nice and liberating to not worry about putting anything on when I leave the house. But at the same time, I do realize that I am approaching 30 and like I need to be mindful of not looking at least like I'm a sick person who like is not like escaped mental hospital. I can look like that. It's okay. I just not today. But it's more of a, now I want to find that balance, because I do know, for example, like with sort of appreciation for myself. I do know that great things come out of it, and the way it shows up is like me taking care of myself or like expressing myself through things. And I've been loving to do this through clothes. It's just interesting that I do go into extremes sometimes about it.
I just had a realization. It's so, the extremes thing's interesting. Like, I feel like when we've been operating from one like lens, or when one part of us has been like in the driver's seat, to kind of combat that and balance that out, there's another part that comes in that's like the complete opposite side of the spectrum. So like, you know, things like if you've been like working really hard and like pushing yourself, then the opposite side of that might be like a part that's just going to zone you out or kind of put you to sleep, just to kind of find that balance. And you want to be able to bring them closer together. But that wasn't the realization I had. The realization I had was like when you were talking about feeling sick, or like looking sick, I remember there are some days where like I might not have any makeup on and I look in the mirror and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel so like I look sick. Like my skin looks dull, like I look dehydrated. And you just look at yourself and you're like, oh, and you're like, okay, what's going on for the day? Like this is like when you're at home and you know, you're going to work or you're just doing like the regular, maybe mundane. And it's not to say that there isn't beauty in the mundane, but like on those days where you just don't feel your greatest. And I remember Anna and I, we went to the Reconnect gathering and we ran a women's circle and workshop there. And I didn't wear makeup at the festival. I did brush my hair, but I didn't wear makeup. And I remember looking in the mirror and like, I don't know if it's because we were in nature and the environment was so beautiful and inspiring and we ran women's circles. And like, I just looked in the mirror and I was like, you're beautiful. Like, yeah. And so this just got me reflecting on like how much of it is the environment that we're fully into. Like, is this environment that I'm in not conducive to how beautiful I feel, or not, you know, reflecting how beautiful I feel in this energy and space in my skin? Yeah. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that.
I'm wondering as well if it's also your own perception, because, you know, I know the mind is a very powerful thing. And, you know, if, again, with what Anna said, if you consciously go on that journey of self-love, like how you carry yourself also affects how people perceive you. So you can tell if someone loves themselves or not because of the way that they just carry themselves, or like the energy that they have around themselves, right? Like someone might not be, you know, you might not wear makeup, but I can tell that you take care of yourself and that you value and love yourself because of just the way that you carry yourself.
Like how you feel in your own skin. Yeah. In a sense.
Exactly. And so I guess for me, with my journey with that one, like dancing has been a really like good experience for me of like self-love and self-acceptance, especially with like my physical body. I don't do any exercise, and I guess I'm not saying like, you know, all of a sudden I didn't need to do any exercise because I just did my dancing.
Pretty cute.
But I do need to like look into actually, you know, more exercise, because I want to stay healthy, and not because like I don't like my body, but I just want to also just take good care of my body and make sure that I'm healthy and, you know, eating the right food and everything. But that has helped me change my perception of myself and how I see myself. And I feel like that manifests in your body as well. Like how you think and how you feel about yourself will manifest in your body in a way. Yeah, in a way it's like your own self-perception. So with the makeup thing, I'm the same, because I feel uncomfortable going out if I don't put makeup on. And it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, is it because I don't feel pretty, or is it because I just need to not look dead? You know?
I feel like now the times that we live in with like all of these filters on our phones and like all the photo brushing and the airbrushing and like even like filters that just change your complete facial structure, and like
it's strange because like sometimes you don't even know it. Like some of them can be really subtle, and I know some people, you know, might be so used to using these filters like that when they look in the mirror it's like it doesn't look like it's not the person that they recognize as them, because they're so used to chucking a lot of filters or makeup or whatever else. But I don't know. I feel like that's the kind of world that we live in right now. It's like looking at something raw might not be the norm for a lot of people. Yeah.
And it's like our brains have then become accustomed to see things in a certain way as well. So it's just almost like we're chasing this perfection. Yeah. I'm really curious how your identity has shifted since your dancing, your sexy dancing.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really thought of myself or saw myself doing that because I grew up sort of a tomboy, and I was against heels, and I'm just like, I'm not that girly type. I'm not into pink. But I realized, again, I don't have to fit myself in a certain box. Like, I don't have to fit myself in that like pink and not like be punky and all that stuff. Like, I can like both, and it doesn't matter.
What did it mean? Like, what meaning did you have about girly girls or like pink or heels? Like, what is it that you thought of when you thought of that?
I think I associated that with being weak and like helplessness and depending on men, and but not that I'm a man-hater or anything, but maybe it coincided with from a man-hater to a man-eater. Yeah. Exactly. I think that coincided with my whole starting to be independent and like learning how to stand on my own 2 feet. So respecting that, okay, I have that masculine side of me, but like also honoring my feminine. So I guess like my journey with kind of balancing or finding the balance in both. So since I started my dancing, I think that also slowly started healing a lot of my physical, like my perception of my physical appearance. I got bullied as a kid for my butt. Believe it or not. Well, because back then, look at me now. No, because I remember back then, like having a big butt wasn't perceived as beautiful. That was like, you're fat if you had like, you're. But then again, I'm actually reflecting on that as well, because like, what if society didn't deem having a big butt as beautiful? Would I still have accepted that on my own? I know it definitely made it easier because now it is considered beautiful to have that, but would I have just accepted it on my own as well, or would my journey of that, acceptance taken longer if not? So
It's totally unrelated. I don't know if I want to record it, but I was the opposite. I was not bullied for my butt. I was famous for my butt.
you had a famous butt?
Famous boob. What famous?
I don't know what exactly made it famous, but it had its own nickname. And
what was your butt's nickname?
it was like after my last name.
Cool.
But it was like Kulishadskaya Zhoba. They were like
Kulishadskaya Zhoba. What does it mean?
It's like my last name as. It was like quite weird.
Wow.
It was a weird period of time where people in my class, like my grade, were obsessed with just like calling out my ass. It was really crazy.
Okay, how did you feel throughout that time?
I conflicted. First, people are paying attention to my ass so much.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy. It was actually crazy. Was this primary school? I was like 14, 15.
Okay.
Probably 14. That's when I got I feel like my body type was actually around now, like what I'm now, because I had my extra kilos at that time as well. So, jiggly butt.
Yeah, I got that too, actually. People are so original.
You were bullied for that. I was like, I was literally, people would like, there would be something like someone would make a statement or say like this was great achievement of my life, and they'll be like, still Anna's butt is better. Like, and always do references around like my butt is like trumping everything. Yeah. And still, but it was like middle of everyone's conversation, and that was a surreal thing.
So like your butt was sort of like a meme or something.
It was like a meme in my class. I don't know if we'll keep it.
Oh, this is great. I think this is great podcast content. So this no, but seriously, because like how like we can look at Alex's like how did this impact your self perception, and how did this impact your self perception? Because like I do feel like there's going to be like positives and negatives to it as well. Yeah, I'm so curious as like a 14-year-old how having a famous butt impacted your self perception.
Hi, I'm Anna. And I have a famous butt.
Can the podcast photo just be your butt?
The icon be like a peach.
You know, a dark turn of that is my nudes were leaked when I was still. So everyone got no, like I was maybe 17 or 18. I was 18 when they leaked. So people went. It's like some people were still at school that knew me. But funny, like it manifested itself that everyone got to see my naked butt at the end of it. Yeah, it's weird.
That's like how like that's a huge thing to experience.
Oh, that is a huge thing. Yeah. And I think that's actually definitely impacted like my appreciation of self and like my body, because I was fully like creatively exploring how to photograph myself in a really beautiful way and like express it creatively, because my ex was a creative person. He was like drawing into every like graphic design and stuff. So I was trying to do it in a really tasteful, like beautiful way with like shadows and like lights, and he leaked them. So after that, I really stopped taking photos of myself, like in any way. Yeah. And only recently I've been regaining like even confidence to even just look at myself and like my body. And it was really weird time. But like going back to my butt, oh my God, I don't know if we'll keep it. But again, it did feel funny to have it as a center of everyone's attention for a while. And like teachers knew that it's a meme. Like it was, everyone talked about it. And it was really weird, but at the same time I felt great. Like it was amazing. People are just like appreciate my butt, but at the same time I feel like the line was blurry, because the amount of times people like slapped my butt is unacceptable. That's a huge invasion. It was quite surreal again, and I'm really grateful that I had a very protective friend who played it along, not to like cut off people, and at some point just she had access to my butt, nobody else. That was really funny.
Butt bouncer.
The butt.
A butt bouncer. Oh my God, I just got it. I like a security guard again.
Thanks to my friend.
Do you want to add more to it? No. This is so interesting, because I feel like either the things we're praised for or teased about are the things that we become so conscious of. And like I was praised, and I never noticed this about myself when I was that age, because I don't feel like I wasn't really fixated on those things when I was like 13 or 14. But I was praised so much for my skin. Like everyone, and people still compliment me on my skin now. They're like, you know, your skin's glowing. Like, how do you have skin like that? And as a kid, everyone got awards. I remember it was like the end of year 7, and everyone got given awards. And I was so upset with what I got, because like some people got like, you know, really like smart here, or like you're really great at this and you have this skill. And my award that I got, and like shame on you teachers. No, I'm sure whatever, you're trying to do the best. But my award that I got was for my skin. And I was like, that's such a shallow thing. But I never noticed that about myself until that day. And then ever since then, everyone would compliment on my skin, and I would pay such attention to it, to the point that like if I got a pimple, or if I got something, or if it looked dull, it was something that I was so conscious of, you know? All right, handing over to Alex.
No, I just have a question for you for that one. So were you happy that you got that award, or were you upset that it was not something, like it was a physical attribute?
Yeah, I was upset. I was disappointed. I was like, because it's not something that I ever considered or thought of myself. And like there were so many other compliments that I received at that age, which I really liked, like, oh, you're so creative, or like you're really imaginative, or how did you come up with that, or like really things like that I felt like were, characteristics or traits or things about me and who I am, not like this physical identity that can and does change. Like we are constantly changing as we're aging and as we're growing. Like, how is it that we can be okay with this physical form evolving, and replenishing and then also dying pretty much? And when we think of this identity and this self-perception, how can we allow that core essence of who we truly are and these characteristics to really override anything that's physical? Yeah. Here you go.
No, I was just gonna say, because that happened in year 7. I found that amazing because, like, for me at that age, like having that compliment would be like, wow, thank you so much. But for you, I feel like that's very mature of you to even think like receiving that compliment, like you would rather receive something that's like a lot more of your non-physical traits. Because like for me during that age, like I was so focused on, and maybe it's the environment that you also grew up in, but like I guess for me, I would have been so happy to just receive that compliment because like looks was like such a hyper focused thing that everyone was like working, like you have to look beautiful or you have to look a certain way. But that's like, I found that interesting. Like at that age, like you were very tuned into like what you deemed as important for yourself.
Thanks. And I do feel like since then, I definitely became more fixated on the physical. And I do wonder if like that experience was a bit of like a catalyst for that. Because then I did become like, after that, I started wearing makeup and like, it could be this like collection of friends that you start hanging out with and everything. But then I became really fixated on like the physical, especially through like my teens. And yeah. Still like, I was still curious about my internal world and things like that, but the physical definitely came to light a lot more.
That's fascinating how that was meant to be a compliment, but then somehow it turned into like you just get hyper fixated on it. So it wasn't necessarily bullying, but it was because people forced you to focus on that, and that's what you ended up focusing on as you grew up as well. That's so interesting. Yeah.
I feel like this almost comes like full circle now to what you were sharing at the start, Anna, around like what did you share that you were curious about? Like people, why you get the ick when someone is just into your looks. Yeah. So what does it mean to you when someone is just into your looks? What is it that you believe about that person?
It's good to come. Yeah, it's actually a good question to reflect on it based on all the conversations we've had so far, because your recollection of that award has made me reflect on like, how did I feel being associated with like a meme butt rather than anything else about me. And it actually, like, thinking now about this, I definitely can tell there's so much more I could be like noticed for rather than that. And I feel like that could also, like, maybe reflecting back, that was a response of my classmates not to respond to anything else, to notice me by, because I was really standing out with like a lot of things and pursuing a lot of things actively, and maybe as a form of like shut up, like in terms of, like, how sometimes people of your age in high school kind of put you down because you're standing out too much. And I feel like I was doing a lot of that.
Like the tall poppy syndrome?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Do you guys know the tall poppy?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I might completely butcher this. But it's called tall poppy syndrome. So, when there's like a field of poppies growing. And so naturally, if there are some faster growing poppies and ones that kind of want to, shoot up and extend beyond the norm, people come along and they chop them down, because they want everyone to be at the same level. So that's what they call, like, if you're excelling kind of beyond or growing beyond your point, that they'll chop you down to come back with the crowd. Yeah, I don't know who termed the poppy syndrome. Do you, Alex?
I've heard of that term before.
Yeah. I think it's an Australian thing.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe that was it. I have no idea, and it's only just projection at the moment, like reflecting why, because there was a lot of other things to for me to be known for. But yeah, it was that meme, and it now, like thinking back, maybe it is now realizing that whenever someone associates me with my physical appearance, kind of brings me back to that time when people weren't really acknowledging anything else about what I was doing academically or like creatively, and just associating me with like a feature of mine or something. And to this day, I also do, like in terms of even male attention, for me it is genuinely hard to accept any person who would come up to me and can tell that they looked at me first. Like first impression of me is my looks. Yeah.
Sorry. So it really makes sense why there's a part of you that wants to be unkempt. Like, is that the word? Unkempt? Unkempt. When you go out into the world, like, it makes sense that you want to appear a little disheveled, because then you're like, well, I know someone's going to talk to me. It's like your hairy leg thing. So true.
Do you still want to talk to me?
And you literally said that on a podcast. You were like,
Yeah.
what potty was it? When Anna
It's
was
the
like,
first one. Yeah.
my husband sees me with hairy legs.
Well, this won't happen because I back to shaving them. But it is true. Yeah. Now it's, oh my God, thank you so much for unpacking that with me. Like without you even mentioning that about yourself, Alex, I would not even remembered that it is coming from high school, and it is coming from like the times where I was underappreciated, and in terms of like any other things I could offer, and it was really just seen from my physical booty. it was really like blown out of proportion in terms of that, and it's good. It's gonna be a good material for me to journal about and like work with now, because I think it's important. I really admire women who are like incredibly powerful and also don't like mind looking incredibly sexy at the same time, and or like incredibly beautiful, and appreciate all of the parts of themselves. And it has always been either or for me. I went really hard on disappearing from any sort of like I fought very hard at uni not to be seen as a pretty girl. I really made sure that I am not seen as a pretty girl, and that's, again, it's a big, I think now I can see why. I can see why.
That's such a different perspective to kind of look at self-perception, because a lot of the times it's like us striving to meet society's expectations, or like what society perceives as beautiful. But it's interesting to know that there's also the other side of like rebelling against what the norm is. Because it's just interesting to hear how you didn't want to be perceived as a pretty girl, so you didn't really put that much effort into looks and everything. But I'm wondering how your perception of yourself at the time was as well. Was like, did you perceive yourself as a pretty girl, or did you feel that physically you were enough for yourself, that you were confident in your physical appearance to not want to be perceived as a pretty girl?
In terms of a spectrum of different how do you say, like things that we worry about, and or like complexes, like different complexes. Is it a word, complex? Like in terms of appearance, I don't have many, and that's very much thanks to my mom. She's really good at really embedding a confidence in me, and so I don't have any complexes around like my looks and how I look. I'm quite okay with everything. But it is socially has always, like, why I did that at uni is in my first year I got, and it could be just me not being able to handle attention as well, like from males. But as soon as I started noticing that people are literally just talking to me because I'm a pretty girl, I disappeared and I made sure that I'm just wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and I cut my hair in the most unflattering way, and it's just me and my brains and my conversation, my contribution to a project, for example, not how I look. And I think it is like reflecting on that, and I have been for quite some time since finishing uni. I do think it is quite unhealthy to really shut down the part of you and not work on the ability to just handle that of people's perception, and that's it, and just be yourself. And I know it is like that was an extreme, but I still to this day find myself falling back into I just want to be heard and not perceived as one-sided. Like maybe it has stuck with me, like when I was in grade 5, my classmate coincidentally was walking the same direction as me, and halfway through we finally started talking and we were talking and talking and talking. At the end of the destination, he was like, "Hey, I had no idea you're smart. I just thought you were pretty." And that stayed with me, I feel like, until now. And I think I still struggle the balance of like, if I'm pretty, then I'm dumb, okay, then I'll be just smart and not be pretty at all. But I feel like there are so many beautiful women who are incredibly smart or incredibly like powerful and successful, and they're beautiful, and it's a balance of just both that I think I still struggle with.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, like, I love how I didn't expect, well, I don't know what I was expecting when we were coming into this conversation, but like I didn't realize like it's the things that we were praised for, that we grew up with, that we are now kind of trying to steer away from. And we're kind of, the way that we present ourselves to people now is like not the things that we were praised for when we were younger, basically.
It is that something deeper that we want to be seen for. And like what I get from what you've shared, Anna, is that like you want people to get to know the real you. You want people to know you for your substance, not just for your surface and not for the outside. Yeah. And like ditto, same for what I shared, and same for you, Alex. Add to you.
Yeah, I'm wondering as well, like what both of your feelings are regarding those attributes. Like, so Tash, your skin, and you, Anna, with your butt. Because those
prettiness.
Yeah, like your perceptions of that right now, because those are still good qualities still now, but do you still see them as, what's your relationship with them? Because I know those were things that you also like end up shutting down from yourselves, or like ended up fixating on.
I think like with my skin itself, I love the fact that it sheds. So like I use that as like a metaphor and reminder that like this, self-perception or things that we focus on, it's just it can constantly change. I'm constantly changing, my cells constantly like shed and renew. And like there are times where I might look in the mirror and like I've got a pimple. Like even now I've got this like little bump here, and where? No. But it is like, it's something that I remind myself it's going to change and it's going to pass. And it can be with anything that you find challenging as well. But I do consciously remind myself that I am so much more. And I do look in the mirror and do like affirmations, and, not like looking in the mirror and going, "You've got beautiful skin." But I do that sometimes. Yeah. But I will, like if I do have a pimple or if there's something I'm fixating on, I'll just remind myself that like I am so much more. I am so much more than my physical and than what I see and what I look. And, and then there are things like, oh, okay, if my skin is like breaking out, what is it trying to say to me too? Like our bodies are amazing at expressing symptoms of things that are deeper and underlying as well. So, if my skin does look dehydrated and I look unwell, like should I be drinking some water, and should I be nourishing my body in those other ways? And I shared this at the women's circle we did, but like there are things like, so I got teased for like my little toes, like I got teased for my bushy eyebrows, which I used to get called werewolf girl, which now everybody compliments around how great my eyebrows are too. So suck it, primary school kids um, who teased me. But I was saying, like, speaking to myself like a little baby. So like I used to get teased for like my chubby little toes. I have really like tiny chubby toes and like little chubby fingers. And it's like sometimes it's so unconscious, our self-talk and the judgments that we have. And I'll be like, oh, like, ew, my hands are ugly, or like my toes are ugly. And it's just this like critical self-talk that we might have because, you know, of what other people have said to us or things that we've heard, or if it doesn't fit into like what society deems as beautiful or normal. And so now I do this thing where I'm just like, look at your cute little baby toes. Because like if I saw cute little chubby toes on a little kid or a baby, I would be like, these are so cute. I want to eat them up. So like I'll do to myself now. I'll be like, oh my God, look at these cute little toes. They're so cute. And like, look at these little hands. They're so cute. And then noticing as well, like a big shift for me has been internal family systems, the parts work that I do, and like understanding that like this critical voice and this voice that's like, ew, like your fetus are ugly, like even though it can sound really freaking mean, it's trying to help in its own way because, you know, it wants me to be aware of like what society views as ugly so that, you know, I can change it or be mindful of it or hide it, so that deeper parts of me who require love and connection can obtain that, right? Because that critical voice believes that, you know, if someone sees my cute little baby chubby toes, that they're going to be like, ew, you're so ugly. I don't want to be friends with you. Look at your toes. So coming full circle, being able to appreciate all of those different parts and like, you know, converse with them and be like, hey, like I've got friends who love me regardless of what my toes look like, and I love me regardless of what my toes look like. They're really cute, and if they were on a little baby, people would be tickling them and gobbling them up because they're so cute. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Does that answer your question? Yeah, cool.
Yeah. What about you, Anna?
I love your little self-talk like example. I love that because I love that, and it's so, I think not something that we learn from anyone really, or like in society or in school, to talk to yourself like that. But it's I think it's the healthiest way to talk to your like inner child with just love and like imagining like yourself as a child. That's a trait that you will love. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, I love that. I do a lot of that as well. Like with my self-talk is crazy. I hype myself up probably more than anyone in the world, and that's again like that's a like learning journey in terms of self-care, like self-affirmations, but also probably still comes from my mom really instilling that confidence in me in childhood. And like reflecting on like I don't know, parts and traits of myself, I really shut them down still. I really do struggle with, like, it's funny because I think there's definitely that's why I really like IFS, because I definitely identify parts in myself, and one day I'll be crazy. I will be wearing so much clothes that's going to be so standing out, like stand outish. Like I will enter a room and you will see me, and full on obvious for like this is for attention and for people to notice that I have toes, or like, you know, or like I like to stand out, and there will be a day where I'd be like I don't want to be noticed at all. And so I don't feel like I have a fully scaled, or like fully balanced relationship with my self, like perception, like my look, which is really weird to me. I don't know why still. I
want to hear you answer that question too, because I feel like you'll be able to share. and then maybe we can go after this, so just let me know. But hormonally too, like I feel like throughout our cycle, we should probably mention that, like how we perceive ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I think through cycle, we definitely, we perceive ourselves, and maybe I will be paying more attention to like which time of a cycle, like I feel like, obviously during ovulation, I probably I'll go full steam ahead with like how I look, but sometimes no. And I think it's more than just hormones for me, for sure, in terms of like seasons of no way of like, seasons of not being seen. And so yeah, it would be good to like reflect on it. I could really resonate with your self-image and dance, and I want to hear more about like your also like you answering that question now.
I just actually want to add on to the whole self-talk and like self-affirmation stuff, because I feel like a lot of the way that we talk to ourselves is we learn that through the environment that we grew up in. And so I don't know if I read this somewhere or if it's like a video that I watched, but it's like, it's usually not our voices. It's usually voices from other people. And it's like a recording that would get stored in our brain. And then we just kind of see that as our voices. But then, I don't know, that's something that I've been learning to reprogram as well. Like change the recording in my head and be like, if I find myself, being overcritical about my appearance or something about myself, and it's like, is that your voice? Is that what you really think of yourself? Or is that something that someone has told you before that you're just repeating to yourself now? And is that the actual truth? So yeah, so that has been a really, I guess, me noticing that and just being conscious about that has helped me kind of form my own perceptions of myself. So like going to your question about my dancing and like how has that helped with my self-perception, I guess because dancing has been one of those things as a child that I love doing. And I actually stopped because I was getting self-conscious and started comparing myself to other girls. And, I was like, oh, I don't dance as good as them, or like I'm not as pretty. So I associated dancing with, it had attachments to physical appearance as well, for sure. And because during that age, that was when I was also being bullied for my butt and, like all these, attributes that I just didn't find attractive for myself. And so dancing was like, usually you have to perform, and I didn't feel comfortable being in front of other people. And because I didn't feel confident or comfortable in my own skin, so I just didn't really feel that confident. But I found, like, I got back into dancing maybe a year or two ago. And I don't know if that just comes with age as well, where you just slowly don't care about what other people think anymore. Or maybe that just that need of just coming back. What am I saying? Maybe that desire to come back into yourself, or like just making a home within yourself, or getting to know myself better, where I'm like, I found myself gravitating back to the things that I loved to do as a kid. So yeah, going back to dancing, and I'm like, why did I love dancing in the first place? It's because it made me feel good before all these external things were put on top of it. And so I think that's what made me brave enough to explore the sensual side of dancing, because of how it made me feel. And initially, I was self-conscious. I was like, am I even sexy enough to do this? Stuff like that. I definitely had those thoughts. But then I realized, you know what? It doesn't matter, because if it feels good, then it will look good. Like and it doesn't matter if I feel like I don't. You don't have to look a certain way. If it feels great, that's all that matters. If it feels good in your own body, that's all that matters.
I just want to add, like, when you said, like, when it feels good, it looks good. And, like, really, it should only matter if it looks good to us. And I think that when, like, we all look at the world through our own lenses, right? And I guess everything we've been exploring today is, like, how, our self-perception and our upbringing and all of that conditions or, creates a lens over how we view the world. And so when we deeply understand that within ourselves, like what is our own conditioning, what are our lenses, what is our self-perception, we can really understand like this whole concept of theory of mind and understand how other people have that for themselves too. So whatever it is that looks good, you know, it might not look good to them because of their own conditioning, but, you know, F them.
Yeah.
But we can really settle into that when we understand it for like within ourselves, you know. Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, I get what you mean. And I think it's also, it comes down to the intention of us. What's my intention for dancing? Is it for other people or is it for myself? And I feel like, well, right now for me, I can definitely say that, you know, a huge part of it is for myself. And that's maybe why I kind of want to step into that space of being able to share this with other people, of being able to, I guess, help other people reach that space where it's like they're comfortable enough to just do this, not for the male gaze, or, you know, because I think, I don't know, that's again what society's told us to kind of focus on. But just returning to that space of like doing things for yourself and not for anyone else, and paying attention more on like how it feels for you and not what other people think about it. So yeah.
This was beautiful, Alex. Thank you for that last amazing mic drop. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for staying tuned with this episode. I feel like this has been actually one of my favorites to engage in. And I'm so curious whether or not anyone can relate to what we've shared, what your experiences have been, you know, with your self-identity and your self-perception and, you know, this idea of like a surface versus like that deeper substance, and what comes up for you guys. Thank you, everyone. And Anna and Alex are smiling and they're thankful to you all too. So we hope this episode of the Sisterhood Circle has deeply resonated.
Bye.
Please share this episode with your nearest and dearest. Give this a like and leave a review. All of these help us reach the right people who need some healing in their life. I hope this serves your healing process.